Hello, I'm Steve Grizzetti, co-founder of MoviePix.com and author of the MoviePix.com Guide to Movie Studio Platinum, as well as the MoviePix.com Guide to DVD Architect Studio. And here we are in Movie Studio Platinum in our third part of our 8-part series we're calling Basic Training with Movie Studio. Now here in part 3 we have started a new project and we've gathered some media into it. But before we begin editing it, a lot of times we want to prepare our files before we add them to our timeline. And we do that in a device called the trimmer. If you use previous versions of Movie Studio Platinum, you probably had the trimmer built into either this tabbed set of screens right here, or it's sat to the left of the preview window. That's usually the most common place for it. They have now made the trimmer a separate floating window, and it only comes up when needed. However, you can configure your workspace so that it fits inside your workspace, and I'll show you how to do that in a moment. Now, one thing to note though is if you happen to be working in simple mode, there is no trimmer. That's one of the disadvantages or limitations of simple mode. In advanced mode, we can do many more advanced things. And you see that when I right-click on a clip and select Open in Trimmer, I get a floating trimmer window by default. Now, I don't particularly like a floating trimmer window, although I can drag that off to the side here. If I've got two monitors, I can put it over here and get it out of the way, or I can shrink it down, or I can just ignore it, because when I click on the interface here, I can just kind of push it off to the side. I actually like it resting inside the interface. If you hold down the control key as you drag a floating window around, you will find that it will sort of drop into certain window spaces here. So I can sort of drop it, and you see I have the option of dropping it into the preview screen, having it share space with the preview screen. I can drop it into this tabbed set here. But I actually prefer, there's a drop space right in between the two, and sort of the traditional drop space for us. There it is. And I'll just let go, and now you can see I have to reconfigure things a little bit, but now I have my trimmer permanently embedded in my interface. The trimmer can save you a lot of time because it is a place to prepare your videos before you add them to your timeline. So here's a clip of the bride and groom dancing. This is a pretty long clip, of course, because it goes the entire length of the song. I'm not going to use this entire clip in my movie. If I drag it down here, you can see it actually goes pretty long. It's about 3.5 minutes long. I don't want to use that entire clip, at least not as a whole piece. So I'm going to remove it from the timeline. And instead, I'm going to open it in my trimmer. So I'll right-click and select Open in Trimmer. In my book, I show you different ways to set up Open in Trimmer. A lot of people prefer the double-click method to open it in the trimmer, and I show you how to do that in the book. And now I have my whole clip here, and instead of adding my whole clip to the timeline, I can just select segments of it. Say I like this segment here. I can just drag over it to create a loop region that represents this segment. And when I drag from that timeline to my timeline, I only get that selected segment. And so I can do this if I got a particularly long clip and I want to just use pieces of it. I can pre-select those pieces here in the trimmer. I can also, if I've had a long clip with a lot of short segments on it, I can actually save these little segments here as subclips. So in other words, I've selected this segment here. I want to save it as a new clip in my project media window, select more buttons, and then I can select create subclip. And when I do, it's going to say, what do you want to call it? Let's call it Dance 1. Click OK, and you see now I have Dance 1. I'm going to just open this in my trimmer. A much shorter segment here. But this is sort of a subclip, a shorter clip made of the longer clip. So it's a great way to prepare your files. It can save you a lot of time in the long run working in your trimmer first. It's a place where you can preset your scenes. You can take a longer scene and chop it into a lot of smaller scenes. We could create here, for instance, a little subfolder in our media bins. This is one of the things we cover in the book, is creating media bins. We can call this new bin the dance. And I can create a lot of subclips from this longer clip and save them into this folder, Dance 2. And there I've got a whole media bin or a subfolder that just has segments of this larger dance that I can use to create my dance montage. Now in part 4, we're going to finally edit on the timeline. We're going to add some media to the timeline and do some real editing. And we'll do that in part 4. I'm Steve Grizzetti. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you in part 4.